With #1 hits in each of the last 5 decades, Cliff Richard is the most successful British recording artist of all time. But despite a chorus of critical disapproval, he put his entire career on the line to profess his faith in God.
If I have one thing to offer that's of any value at all, it's the message that God exists and that Jesus is alive and he's yours if you want him. I've been criticized for saying that many times in situations like this, but I thumb my nose at the criticism.
To me, the essential part of my faith is knowing that Jesus died so that I wouldn't have to, even though I'm the one that should have been nailed. And that there is a God, and I can be acceptable to God just simply by saying, Jesus, thank you so much, I believe in you, take my life. That's the essential thing that no one can ever take away from me.
Cliff Richard was born in India and christened Harry Webb. His parents were English, members of the British Raj, and life was good.
The childhood memories stay with you. Having an aunt that lived down the road that used to let us go and eat with our fingers, the way Indians used to do it, flying kites, jumping out of this train, all the dogs coming to meet us. My parents entertained, and their friends would come round, my relations would come round, and they'd have a wind-up gramophone. I used to love winding it up. Wind it up, and I'd say, can I put the needle on, you know, put the needle on carefully, and then suddenly this crackly old sound would come out, and out would come chewing a piece of straw.
I'm happy, nothing can suit me more.
But the days of empire were over. Amid the murderous convulsion of Indian independence, young Harry's dad upped stakes and shipped the Webb family back to Britain. Hard times lay ahead.
And then when we arrived in England, we arrived here with £5 sterling. We were poverty-stricken. When we came here, it was very, very difficult for my father to get work. Now, people say to me, oh, well, of course, you're wealthy. Well, excuse me, I wasn't always, and I'll never forget what it was like. 3 of our main meals a week were these pieces of toast in a soup bowl with tea poured on it, milky tea, and sugar on top.
And for Harry, there was worse to come. School.
They realised that I was different. My accent must have been slightly more Anglo-Indian accent. I probably spoke a little like that. And I got treated pretty badly at school, actually. I was bullied a lot. My parents, you know, they'd always have to say to me, how are you bruised like that? And I said, oh, I fell over in the playground. I knocked so many people over that I stood tall in the end, and I kind of learned to fight. What it does is give you grit. It makes you feel, I have to get through this.
Harry's dad was a deeply committed Christian. At 14, Harry was packed off to confirmation classes, but none of it made sense to him. Although in awe of his dad, he made a stand.
And I came home one day and I said, I don't want to go again. I don't understand it. I don't know what they're talking about. And my dad, he went, okay. And he left it like that.
The religion sweeping through post-war teenage Britain had nothing to do with the church. It was a new phenomenon from the States. Rock and roll.
I played truant one day to go and buy tickets for Bill Haley concert, and someone snitched, and I lost my prefect's badge because I'd ducked school. You know, you can't do this, you're a prefect, you're supposed to be an example to the others.
But Bill Haley's lure was irresistible. As the first rock and roll star to arrive in Britain, he was mobbed wherever he went.
Bill Haley was just enormously popular. He came in to the most enormous acclaim. You know, he started off with, everybody razzle dazzle. Everybody. We were on our feet instantly. It was so exciting to watch this. Thousands upon thousands of people. It was like the first rock and roll record that we heard.
Young Harry's appetite had been whetted, but the best was yet to come.
I remember this paper shop, and there was a car, and the window was down. We stopped looking at the car when we heard, since my baby left. Well, I found a new place to dwell. The guy came out, he got in the car, drove off, and we thought, what was that? I found myself thinking, this is just so stunning, because there'd been nothing like it. Listening to American Forces Network, coming from Germany, was beamed across. We finally were able to rush around saying, it's a guy called Elvis Presley. It was just so exciting that it carried us on this great wave, and thousands of us wanted to be like Elvis, and a few of us got through. Few of us got lucky.
Harry teamed up with drummer Terry Smart and guitarist Norman Mitham and Ian Samwell. to form the Drifters and play local gigs.
And then one day, this guy came up and said, I have a ballroom in Ripley in Derbyshire, and I'd like you to come and play there. We thought, oh, this is the big time. He said, but I need to have, I want to put some posters up, and he said, I'd like to put Harry Webb and the Drifters. And I said, oh, no, we're just the Drifters. He said, no, well, no, I know, if you want to come up, it's got to be something else, if you don't want Harry Webb. So we went to a little pub, and over a beer, talked about names. Somebody said Russ Clifford. I said, Russ Clifford. Then somebody said, what about Cliff Russell? I went, Cliff, that's a great name. Cliff, rock face, rock and roll. Yeah, okay, Cliff's good. Then somebody said, Cliff Richards. And then Ian Samwell, who wrote Move It, said, why don't you take the S off Richard? Then you have two Christian names, which is kind of unusual. So that's how it came, Cliff Richard. And when I went home that night, and I said to my parents and my family, I've changed my name. And they all said, what to? They didn't say, what? I said, well, I'm going to be called Cliff Richard. And they went, oh, fine, okay.
Okay, come and get it. It's
TV entertainment was in its infancy. ABC's Oh Boy was the very first all-music show. It was created by a producer called Jack Good.
He took new artists of that day, myself, Marty Wilde, Billy Fury, Dickie Pride, a whole bunch of people, and we would sing the songs that were being successful in the charts. So you'd hear the voice saying, and here's Cliff to sing whatever it was. It was great for us because we learned how to trade that way. There's a famous one of three of us, in fact, doing a song called Three Cool Cats. Marty, me, Dickie Pride. And I looked like a greasy slob. I mean, I just don't know how I survived it. Jack Good was very helpful. He made me cut my sideburns away. He said, it's just too much of an Elvis takeoff. And don't play the guitar, get rid of the guitar. I'm thinking, oh no. So he's the one that actually said, stay where you are, stand, I'll tell you what to do. He'd tell me to sort of turn on a line, don't grab your arm until you sing that, lower your eyes, look up. It all helped me so much. The press helped me a great deal too without really knowing. But they talked about smoldering eyes and pouty lips and all that business, and I could do it then, but I can't pout anymore. But I saw, oh really? Oh, I'm not aware of doing that, and then I just did it more. So, and I looked in the mirror and went like this, or whatever it was, and I thought, oh yeah, okay, that's a good look. Come on, pretty baby, let's move it and I'll groove it. Shake, baby, shake, but honey, please don't lose it. This rhythm that gets into your heart and soul. Well, let me tell you, people, it's called rock and roll. My first record, Move It, was really a happy accident. We went into the studio and Norrie said, well, Ernie, we kind of need an intro to the song. Cliff will sing it down there with you, and then you can see that there's gaps in between the lyrics. We'd like some fills. Anyway, Ernie just went, da-dun, down, da-dun, da-dun, down, down, and Ian Samwell started this, ba-da-da-dun, and suddenly we were off and running. And then when we went upstairs to listen to it, we thought, I sound American. We sounded American. And in fact, when Hank Marvin and Bruce Welch, when they first joined me, they auditioned at my house. And they said, we thought you were American. We had no idea that you were English. I used to be so proud of that. And I've sung it ever since, funny enough. I still use it on stage.
Ian Samwell left the lineup and the Drifters became the Shadows with the inclusion of Hank Marvin and Bruce Welch.
It was a hit in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all around the Far East, and suddenly, you know, within a year or two, the Shadows and I were being invited to sing all over the world. I was only 17 and a half when I made that record. I was thrown into the deep end, so to speak, and I really did have to learn while running. I lived and loved the excitement of it all. I loved it going on stage at night. I remember Bruce used to come up to me and say, let's have a raucous in the audience. Let's get a riot going. And then I said move around a lot more, and the girls would all come rushing up the front. And of course we used to annoy our management because they used to say to us, look, we've got to get out of this hall. The only entrance is at the back. We're going to have to run. Do not have a riot. And Bruce would come up and say, to hell with them, let's have a riot. So all of that was going on, and it was wonderful.
Next, the the turmoil when Britain's most popular vocalist found God. In 1959, the young British rock idol Cliff Richard went in front of the camera.
I was invited to do a movie called Serious Charge. And in the movie, Lionel Bart had written 3 or 4 songs. Living Doll was one of them. We recorded it for the movie as it was written, which was like a pseudo-rock dome. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Got myself the do, do-do-do-do. And we did it fine. Then Norrie Paramore, my producer, said, look, they want the single of Living Doll. So we said, well, not like that. And Bruce said, why don't we just do it like a country song? Well, it was Jet Harris that created that intro. I got myself a crying, talking, sleeping, walking, living doll. We released it and got a shock when it came in quite high in the charts. And the next thing we knew, it was #1. Living Doll just changed everything. It also took me into an audience group, a bracket that was known as the Mums and the Dads. Adults started coming to my concerts after Living Doll. But it did lead to me being asked to do a film called Espresso Bongo. It's about a manager who finds somebody who has something that the public seem to like, and he tries to, take him for a ride. Perfect for me. I didn't have to actually act, really. I just had to be believable as Bongo Herbert. When I have been recognized in America, it's very often somebody has said, weren't you in Espresso Bongo? No, I've often thought that funny. After all these years, I'm still recognizable as Bongo Herbert.
Espresso Bongo was a cult hit for Cliff and led to new movie roles in The Young Ones and Summer Holiday. But while Cliff was filming, his dad, one of the key figures in his life, died. Cliff was devastated.
When he died, I suddenly started thinking, I wonder if he's still around somewhere. I wonder if he's hovering. We had a bass player called Licorice Locking. Licorice was a Jehovah's Witness. And on one of the trips, I'd said to him, my father's died. I'm thinking maybe I'll get in touch with him. And he, through a medium. And he said, I don't think you should do that. He found a couple of scriptures from way back in the Old Testament. It actually talked about beware of wizards that chirp and mutter, about the contacting of the dead, and it seemed to be not safe for us to do that. I read this and I thought, well, I never thought the Bible would ever have anything to say to me. And here, in a very simple way, it actually was saying, no, don't do that. It may not be good for you. I started reading the Bible again. Not to the Old Testament. I started straight away at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I was stunned at how little I knew. At the age of 14, I had rejected Christianity because I didn't understand it and found the confirmation classes boring at 14. At the age of 21, I'm thinking, this was Jesus? This is what he said? This is what he did? I was blown away by it all. And it led me to meeting people who had already been through what I'd been, who had been Christians for numbers of years. And slowly I formulated my own feelings, my responsibility to these facts that were being thrown at me. And I slowly was won over. Some people it's in a flash. Some people it's when Billy Graham says, if you want to take the step, take it now. Now that didn't happen to me. It wasn't an instant like that. Mine took a whole process of thinking. The final part of the process is when you commit yourself, when you actually say, okay, I've got all the information I need, I agree with it, I believe in it, I trust that God exists, I'm sure that Jesus has died for me. Okay, then take over. Nothing. I heard nothing.
A year later, Cliff was at a street-side cafe when he suddenly heard a shout.
Cliff! And this guy came up, and we'd worked together somewhere, and I can't remember who it was. And he sat down, spent 10 minutes with me, and said, you've changed. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you're definitely different. I thought, oh, wait a minute, maybe this thing that I can't feel, maybe it's showing itself. Maybe I'm becoming what I hope I would become, a Christian, whatever that is. And he's the first person that suggested to me that something had changed.
Changes were afoot in the music world too. The Beatles had just released their debut album, Please Please Me. Cliff and the Shadows bumped into them at a party.
And we were all sitting around talking about music. They'd had a Love Me Do and then their first big hit. And we said, well, what are you going to do to follow it? John got on the guitar and they sang, na 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 na, if there's anything that you want. And we just went, thank you. We'll see you in the charts then. And then, of course, they were dragged off to America. The press, for a year, there seemed to be no mention of any other artist alive on the planet. And we're thinking, oh my goodness, that's the end of our career. And then we suddenly realized Are we still selling out our concerts? Yeah. Have I just been number one? They said, yeah. Have you been number one? The Shadows said, yeah. I said, well, nothing's changed.
But Cliff was about to face the biggest test of his life and his career. American evangelist Billy Graham had launched a massive crusade in Britain, asking for people to make a public declaration of their faith.
Thousands of people representing every denomination in Britain.
I got this letter through the mail, and it was Billy Graham writing to say, I'm coming to do a series of meetings at the Earls Court Stadium, and we'd like you to come on one of the Thursdays on our youth night. And I thought, oh my goodness, he wanted me to come and tell people that I was a Christian, and I hadn't done that yet. I'd come to that point in my career, I was known everywhere, and Billy Graham was asking me to be public about what I believed. I grew up that time. I started a growth into my manhood, really took a big step, because I thought, with all the people talking to me about saying, you know, you could lose your fans, if not all of them, a big percentage of them, you'll be ridiculed, and I'm thinking, oh, what am I doing here? Anyway, I thought, wait a minute, if I say that I believe that God loves me so much that Jesus came and died for me, and I've accepted this, is anything else as important? If everything else was stripped away from me, and I was left that, would that be enough? And the answer was, naively, I wasn't thinking about all the repercussions, but I thought, yeah. The romantic in me said, yeah, I could cope with that. And the minute I could say that, I thought, right, I'll do it. I did the whole thing with Billy Graham. The press that were there that night, it was blinding. I sang, "It is no secret what God can do." And I got up, and I held the podium like this, and I sang it. I spoke first, and then I sang it. When I sat down, I couldn't bend my arms. And I thought, what's gone wrong? Somehow or another, my blood flow, because of the high tension and my unbelievable nerves, I kind of got coagulated in my arms. I couldn't bend my arms.
What did the fans make of Cliff's declaration of faith? Had God spared his career?
And I thought, wait a minute. I did the Palladium show that year, broke all the box office up to that point. And then my career continued. I had big hit records, and I thought, oh, he hasn't taken away my... It's like I'd put my career as a sacrifice, and he said, okay, you can keep your career. The thing that attracted me to Christianity was that at its center was a man who claimed, first of all, to be divine, and who then did the impossible, and that was to die and come back to life. I was invited to do Christian television, and I was asked to do gospel concerts.
One thing, people, I want you to know that Jesus got a loving soul.
I was constantly being talked about my faith by the press, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, this is interesting. Not only is he saying, you know, keep your career, he's actually showing me that I could use it if I wanted to. I took a step, the press lammed me from every direction, and I'm still here and I still believe.
Recording hit singles took a back seat while Cliff explored his new life as a very public Christian. When he came back to his career, he felt refreshed, liberated.
In 1976, when we did Nearly Famous, I was back in full flood then. It was just great to feel that I was free to really be whatever I wanted to be. I could do what I wanted to be. I didn't fear anything. I didn't feel guilty anymore.
The song Devil Woman represented a completely new direction for Cliff.
And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'd love to record this. But will I be allowed to record it? Will the fans mind me recording something like this? It was the obvious choice of song. First of all, I like that kind of music. I like guitar riffs, I like good melodies, and I like a storyline. It was a song about a man who had dealings with the occult. It was about a guy that found himself in the company of this woman. She had the same eyes as the cat that he saw on the road, and you know, there's all this eerie sort of thing. I put in things like, you know, if you find yourself in that company, you better get out of there fast, stay away, beware the devil woman, she's going to get you. I added little bits that would turn it into a direct warning against the occult. But you know, I've had nothing but bad luck since the day that I saw the cat at my door. So I came into You, Sweet Lady, with strange eyes, and the eyes are the same as the cat. It was released all over the world. In Australia, I got a fantastic letter from a girl, and she said, I was thinking about getting involved in the occult, and my best friend, who knew that I was a Cliff Richard fan, said to me, play Cliff's new single. And she said, I played the single, She said, I heeded the warning in the lyrics, and I didn't bother going to the occult. And I'm now a member of St. Paul's Church in Melbourne or something, and I'm helping run the Sunday school. And I thought, yes! I think God has great plans for people. Christianity was a mega step for me to take. And the funny thing is, people have said to me, it might ruin your career.
After the break, how Cliff and his fans proved the critics wrong. Cliff Richard's chart-topping 1970s collaboration with producer Bruce Welch began with Devil Woman, but other huge hits were already on the way.
I remember him coming to my home and saying, I've got this song. And my house had these sliding doors and on the first floor, and we leaned on the rail and turned the volume up full, and Miss Unites flooded over us. And he said to me, look at my arms. I said, look at my arms. We were all our hairs were standing on our arms. And he said, it's a must. We Don't Talk Anymore is a perfect pop rock song. The minute it goes, do-do-do-do, you think this is a hit. I went to do one of these Christian seminars, and there was a girl there, and after I'd done my bit chatting and everything, I opened it up to questions, and she said, your gospel song, We Don't Talk Anymore. And I said, my gospel song, We Don't Talk Anymore? It's so funny how we don't talk anymore. She said, yeah. I said, no, that's not... I'm now being educational. I'm thinking a young Christian girl. I want to be sure she understands it's not a Christian song. It's talking about a breakup of a relationship. She said, well, that's strange, she said, because a few months ago, I woke up and your song was on the radio, and I woke up and I heard, We Don't Talk Anymore. And she said, I suddenly realized I had stopped praying. Hush my mouth. It's really sweet. To me, it just means that God doesn't speak in voices to me, but that indicated that maybe he's trying to tell me, look, it doesn't matter what you do. If your heart and soul is in it, and I can use it, I will. If it doesn't mention God or Jesus, I can still use it.
Cliff's career continues into its 5th decade, with new recordings and new hits. The latest is What Car?
The ambition in me hasn't died. Recordings are becoming more difficult. If I can't get my records heard, then people won't buy them, and therefore I can't waste my time recording them. I mean, that's as simple as that. I'd rather just go do concerts. So if the day comes when I can't sell, a couple of 100,000 copies of an album, then I'd rather finish with my dignity intact. At the moment, the radio's been really kind to me in playing a record that I never dreamt in a million years. I mean, What Car being played on Radio 2, when really I've always thought of Radio 2 as being extremely middle of the road and extremely not rock. It turns out they liked it. And of course, I'm thrilled. I don't care what they like of mine. And I'm grateful for the stations that have taken it up and played it for me.
Looking back over his career, one of Cliff's greatest regrets is that his dad wasn't there to share it.
I've always felt that my dad missed the best parts of my life, really. He missed my conversion. He didn't get to know that I finally came round to his way of thinking. He missed all the best parts of... he was too sick to come to The Young Ones. I think I was filming The Young Ones when he died. But he missed all that, missed the summer holiday successes. He missed the biggest record I ever made, We Don't Talk Anymore. He'd have loved all of that. He'd have loved the fact that I was touring all over the world. So I just feel saddened when I think that he missed all these best bits, and he was such a major part of my life. Even though at the very beginning, we weren't close. I feared him. I was in awe of him. And when he was sick, it's when we really became really close. It was when, instead of holding the screwdriver while he did the job, I had to do the job. We didn't enjoy each other for as long as I'd have liked.
Perhaps the issue Cliff will never resolve is why his critics reject the faith he's so proud to declare, when it's so popular with his public. Millennium Prayer was the surprise hit of 2001.
A friend of mine, Paul Field, and his writing partner, they had been commissioned to write something for the churches in Britain, a musical thing of celebration leading us into the millennium. One of their wives had said, what you need to do at the end of one of these performances is have everybody join in on something that they all know, like the Lord's Prayer and Auld Lang Syne. They all laughed at first. And he said, when he got home, though, he's sitting at the piano, thinking, and then he thought, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be. And he said, he said, it worked. It fitted. And I know that when Bill from the office first told me, I felt like going, it just doesn't sound like a great idea. The singers concocted this wonderful, gospel-y, almost a black gospel choir sound, which is unusual coming from white folks. I mean, I've always said I don't sing gospel music. My music is rock spell. So Millennium Prayer is a rock spell song with black overtones. But it was a surprise to me that it was so big, and a shock that it became so controversial. This was a thing for the millennium, hopeful that a prayer that could be sung by Jewish people or Muslims or Christians. It doesn't mention Jesus, it doesn't mention God, it just says, please forgive us our sins, feed us, make us love each other. Where are all those peace lovers? Why were they all so against it? Why did DJs take so much against a very simple concept of something that everybody could sing for the millennium? And they seemed to miss the point. And do you know what? Every single one of them was wrong, because the public did want that. We sold it at twice the price of a normal single, and we sold 1.4 million, so it made a lot of money for the charity, but nothing's perfect, you know, it still hurts, but you have to put yourself up. Every time I make a record, every time I do a concert, you put yourself yet again in the position of being knocked down. But I don't mind. I kind of found a way of being me, and that's the trick, really.